So the first time I watched this movie, I did not know anything about the movie, and I was like, "This is absolutely insane story," and then it was really great. But now watching it a third time and knowing that it's by the director who did Old Boy, I was like, "That makes so much sense." Like, it is a very graphic movie,
Mm.
and Old Boy is obviously like one of the best movies ever made, but also one of the most brutal movies. And so the entire time I was watching this one, I was like, "Yep, this makes so much more sense." I was like, "Who came up with this story? Who came up with this film?" And it's Park Chan-wook, and I was like, "Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense."
Oh, fascinating. That's really cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't seen Boy, and it's on. I know nothing about it actually, and it's on my list. So, wow.
It's a I know the story. It is, again, like I said, one of the best movies ever made. It sounds absolutely incredible, but it's extremely dark. So,
Wow.
and extremely very
Interesting.
like graphic. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what everybody who's just come in, we are the Real Thesis Podcast. This is a podcast where we like to analyze films and specifically looking at the screenplay and different filmmaking techniques that are used to tell the story and to help elevate the story and drive home themes. I'm your host, Shalini. I'm a screenwriter and an aspiring director, and I am joined by Liana, who is a writer and producer. Thank you, Liana, for coming and joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Shalini. I'm really excited to talk about today's film.
Yeah. Yeah. So today we are talking about The Handmaiden. We were just talking a little bit about Park Chan-wook. Just get that name right. Park
Park
Chan-wook.
Chan-wook.
Park
Park
Chan-wook.
Chan-wook.
Park Chan-wook. Um, yeah, today we're going to talk about that. But first, I just want to say we're happy to have you here. You've seen Old Boy, so you've been
I've not.
familiar with this. Oh, you've not. Oh, you're just
No, I know.
familiar with this work.
I'm just yeah, I'm familiar with the story of it.
Yeah, yeah. Someone recommended it. I'm going to do it, hopefully, with a good friend of mine. We're going to cover the film, but yeah, I've not covered it yet. And it was on my list. And when I saw that he did it, I was like, oh, this is very cool, very exciting. But should we jump into the film?
Let's do it.
Sweet. Well, the film came out in 2016 and it was directed by Park Chan-wook. And like we said, he did Old Boy, and he most recently did this film called No Other Choice, which I think came out last year.
Yeah.
And it was written by him and Jung Seo-kung, and it stars Kim Ta-ri, Kim Min-hee, Ha Jung-woo, and Cho Jin-woo. And it's based on the novel Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. I think that is based in like Victorian England, so the story is transposed from that. Before we get in, we do have some trigger warnings for this film.
Yeah, this film is pretty graphic. It does include discussions and an attempt of suicide. There is abuse and implied sexual abuse, and there's also a lot of erotic material in it as well, which is we're just kind of pointing out. There's full frontal nudity, um, at least two explicit sex scenes. So there's some triggering stuff and just some stuff we're like thought you might like to know before going in. So please be advised, this is not your type of story. Please join us on the next video.
All right, let's dive into the plot. So the film is split into three separate schemes that go on. There are three cons that play out, three major cons that play out over the course of the film. And so the film kind of separates into three parts. The story starts in 1930s Korea. And at this time, it has been occupied, it's currently occupied by Japan at this time. And our story starts with Tamako? Tamako.
Tamako. Tamako.
Tamako. It starts with Tamako, and she is hired as a handmaiden for a wealthy Japanese heiress. We soon learn that Tamako is not really a handmaiden. She's actually a con artist named Suki, who lives with like another group of con artists that kind of have a very pseudo family. And they work alongside this man named Count Fujiwara. He goes by the name Count Fujiwara. And they work with him to basically like trade stolen goods and things like that. So he comes to the family with a plan. He wants to marry the wealthy heiress, who happens to currently live with her uncle, who is a Korean man who helped the Japanese take control of Korea. And in exchange, they gave him gold mines. And he uses all of that wealth to basically collect rare books. And he's like very well known for his collection of rare books. So his plan is to seduce and marry this heiress, and he recruits Suki in order to basically help him execute the plan and to help convince her to marry him. Suki starts working for the heiress, who's named Hideko, and they basically She very quickly forms a crush on her. They start to form like somewhat of an intimate bond.
Mhm.
And get very, very close. And at the time, or at the same time, Count Fujiwara. So he forges. So the Count forges artwork for Kozuki, the uncle. And so he starts giving Hideko art lessons, and he basically just starts seducing her. And he's expecting Suki to basically convince her that, oh, you should marry the Count, or you should, go along
Mhm.
with it. Um, One day, Suki catches Hideko and the Count basically kissing, and she's very emotionally, like she's, very in love with Hideko at this point. And she gets very upset, and the two basically have a fight that night, and it's a pretty brutal fight. And soon after, the uncle goes away on a trip, and when he's gone, Hideko and Suki decide to run away, and Hideko is going to elope and marry the Count. So the two run away. She gets married. They basically hide away. He validates their marriage and he cashes out her inheritance. And all this time, they're kind of just staying at an inn up in the mountains that's very secluded. So once they have the inheritance in cash, basically, the Count starts implementing his plan to send Hideko to a mental institution. So he takes her and Tsuki to the mental institution in order to get Hideko, checked out and committed. And at the very last second, basically, Hideko and the Count basically turn on Suki and get her committed under the guise that she is
Mhm.
actually the lady and Hideko is the maid. So basically, they kind of switch places and make Suki like get committed, and Suki is abandoned at the mental institution, and Hideko and the Count run away together. That is the end of part one. So part two begins, and this is going to be our second scheme, or our second con that is going on in the film. We get a bit more into Hideko's background. Basically, she was orphaned at a very young age and came to live with her mother's sister, who has been married to Kosuki. And she is trained from a very young age to do erotic readings like her aunt does. And eventually, her aunt does die by suicide. She hangs herself. And when she gets older, Hideko takes over the erotic readings. These readings are kind of done like in front of a group of people, and they're a way for like Kazuki trades in rare books. So basically, he hosts these readings as a way of like giving people a taste and auctioning off the rare books. The Count
And
starts. Oh, go ahead.
so I was going to say very specifically, it's men, it's rich,
Yes,
powerful
it's rich
men.
men, powerful men. Yeah, exactly. The Count starts working for Kozuki as an art forgerer, and he tries to seduce Hideko, but he realizes very soon that Hideko is just not going to be seduced by him. So instead, he proposes a deal with her in which he will marry her, they split her inheritance, and he would give her freedom. She agrees to the plan, and she asks that he find her a very naive, gullible maid that they could basically make it seem like they can switch identities and she'll assume the maid's identity and the maid will assume hers, and then they will admit her into the mental institution under Hideko's name, and then Hideko can run away and be free. Suki starts working, and Hideko, she goes along with this plan of basically just trying to con Suki and, make her believe that she is not interested in the Count and things like that. But over time, Hideko starts to develop feelings for Suki herself. And at one point, Hideko is very resistant to go along with the plan because she's falling for Suki. And when they have that fight, basically, Suki is forcing her and telling her that she should marry the Count. But Hideko is trying to say, I don't love him, I love somebody else. And Suki just keeps insisting that she marries him. So she throws Suki out of her room and she goes and tries to hang herself. And when she does, Suki basically rushes in and saves her and keeps her from falling. And the two confess their plot to one another. They both confess that they were trying to con the other. So they decide to team up and they enlist the help of Suki's makeshift con artist family. And they elope to go meet up with the Count. But before they do, Hideko confesses to Suki that she has basically been doing these erotic readings for men, and that's what her readings were, because Suki just knew she was reading. She didn't really know what it was. And Suki is just very upset that Hideko was put in such a position, so she destroys the entire library, all of the art in it, and the two run away. Now we get to the third part of the film, which is going to be the third con. Basically, Hideko and the Count have just admitted Suki to the mental institution, and the Count basically tells Hideko, like, Suki's going to be dead in a few days. I plan to have her killed. And Hideko, I think, was surprised to find this. But never, to, I guess, everyone's surprise, Suki has a plan. Her family basically create a fire at the mental institution and they help her escape. So they break her out of the mental institution. Hideko seduces the count and drugs him in the process of it, and she basically steals her money and runs away to find Suki, and they reunite. The uncle Kozuki's henchmen find the count and take him back to the house where he is tortured. He has his fingers cut off and stuff, and then in the midst of being tortured, the uncle wants him to tell him about what it was like to be with Hideko. And so he kind of makes up a story about what that was like. And as he's doing so, he's smoking mercury cigarettes and it ends up suffocating or ends up killing him and Kozuki. And Hideko and Suki are able to run away together. They escape because Hideko she basically assumes the identity of the count. She takes his passport and changes the picture, and the two escape and they live happily ever after. And that's the plot.
It's a great story. It's a great film.
Do you remember what it was like when you first saw this film and then when you saw it most recently?
Yeah, I was very confused the first time I was watching it. Not confused, but confused in a good way because I was like, I don't know what's happening. A lot of this is flying over my head. Um, Very much was taken aback by a lot of the more erotic stuff of it, but I loved it because it was such a rich story and it was a very beautiful love story, even though not advertised as a love story. It is a thriller. It's a psychological thriller through and through. But this time around, I understood a lot more of it. I got the more cohesive image of it, and I just love this movie because there are so many layers that are happening here. Like, there is so many dynamics that you can peel apart, and we're going to talk about a lot of some of the major stuff that happens, but there's so much to it. It is like an extremely rich film, and it's gorgeous, and it is actually still a really beautiful love story between these two girls. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. I have no recollection of when I saw it. If I had to guess, I would have said that I saw this film in 2015, but that's
No,
not possible because it
no,
came out in
we saw
2016.
no, we saw it together,
And like,
2020.
I don't know why that feels like ages ago now. I had no recollection until it got to the end love scenes, and I was like, why did I remember that? I guess because it was so,
Mm, the
yeah.
last scene, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I remember that, but I didn't remember anything about the rest of the film. So it felt like I was watching it for the first time. Um,
Mhm.
I think when I was watching it, it felt like the first time.
Yeah.
Everything is just like, even the scenes that felt very graphic, it all feels very like impactful and meaningful.
Yeah.
But I will say that I had to watch it 2 or 3 more times in preparation for this essay. And so in the rewatching it, I did fast forward through a lot of the more graphic scenes because I was like, once I took it in, I didn't need to keep taking it in.
Yeah.
Because I think it serves a story. So I guess in my mind, there's a lot of people that say it's a little too graphic, and I'm like, I get it. Like I didn't need to keep seeing it, but it also served a story and was like beautiful. That
Yeah.
yeah,
I think we're going to unpack it a little bit more later, but I think for me, it is graphic, but it felt necessary to the
yeah,
story, and it was
yeah,
done in a way that made it beautiful too.
yeah,
And in parts
yeah,
that were horrifying.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. So you kind of mentioned like different layers about this, and I kind of want to start at like the most base layer, which I think is
Yeah.
like the societal layer and the time period that this is set in. So I mentioned
Hmm.
that this is set in 1930s Korea, and I don't know if a lot of people know that Japan had basically had control over Korea from 1905 to 1945. And if you
Hmm.
really look into the history between these two countries, it is such a long history.
Yeah.
And the official Korea becoming a part of Japan was in 1905, but they had stuff from I think like 1870s, 1800s. So it was just such a long history between these two countries. But I think the thing that I find most interesting is that in 1910, so about 5 years into it, Japan had this assimilation policy, which just felt it was almost like a cultural erasure. They basically wanted to fully assimilate Korea into Japan. So they were trying to convert people to the religion of Japan. They were trying to make them worship the emperor and worship the same deity or gods in the same way or whatever the religion was, because they did have Protestant at the time too. The
Hmm.
biggest thing is that they were expected Koreans to learn Japanese. Their education system reflected Japan. The history books had to basically be Japanese history or like align with what was Japanese history. And there was a major erasure of Korean culture at this time. And, once after 1945, there was a resurgence in the culture. But I think it's very important to note that, like, it's interesting in the film because they speak Japanese, they speak Korean. It's two different things
Mhm.
they're speaking. And the languages are used in a very code switching kind of way between the two of them. And the characters all are like, they're bilingual. Like every single one of them switches seamlessly throughout
Yeah.
the story. And I think there's this like, it's just the setting itself, like creates this dynamic between a colonizer and the colonized.
Yeah. I
And that's colonizer colonized, that's inferior. And part of that assimilation policy was that Japanese culture was going to be inferior and the Korean culture was going to be, no, opposite, superior, and then
yes.
inferior.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
And it is a colonizer colonized situation. And keep in mind with the occupation of it, like there was violence, there was like sexual violence, there was like so much happening to the Korean population. And those tones can be felt in this movie, even like
Mhm.
because there's violence in this movie and there's like sexual abuse that happens in the movie. Like it is not that this is necessarily commentary on the occupation, but it's all feeding into each other. You can see the colors that are there. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say was like there's also this hint of westernization through the
Mm.
Japanese colonization. And again, I'm not extremely familiar with the history of it, but like I know Japan at the time was trying to be more westernized and were adopting a lot of practices from England and Western countries. And that also shows up in the movie. Like Hideko wears English dresses most of the time, and she's kind of oh, also the Count Fujiwara also does, but like no one else really does. And so there's definitely these different layers of colonized, oppressed, and that bleeds down into the characters.
Yeah. And, like specifically, one of the things that Japan brought to Korea was mental institutions. That was one of the
I didn't
Western
know that.
things that was brought. Yeah. So, as a way of like modernizing Korea and stuff. So that it's very
Mhm.
important that it was like set at that time because they had brought that by that time. But yeah, it's very interesting that you say that like all of these things are touched on because they definitely set it within this like time of Japan occupying Korea, but they don't make it a binary story. They're not like Japan is bad or Korea is good or
Yeah.
like, they don't touch on the politics of it, but you feel that dichotomy between these two cultures and like the way it's just viewed and the way the Count views it, the way Kozuki views it.
Yeah.
But then you also see like that like class dynamic between like
Hmm.
Japanese who are considered, superior to Korean. Like you
Yeah.
don't like it doesn't the story doesn't touch on it, but every single one of these themes appears in the story in the
Yeah.
dynamic between these like main characters.
It really does. Like there's the example of the uncle. He is a Korean man trying to be Japanese, and all of the things that he's doing is in that pursuit of what he considers to be more civilized. But at the end, Hideko points out to him that she's like, I know you struggle to speak Japanese to the Count. I'm going to tell you that the Count is actually Korean. Like, he's a poor Korean man. Um, and so, like, there's that dynamic where the Count is trying to impress the uncle, but the uncle's also trying to impress him. There's also Suki versus the other maids. Is particularly, I think, forget the word. The head the head of the
Yeah.
house, like she is in her Japanese robes and she moves very delicately and things, and Suki is kind of a little bit more fumbling, and it is meant to show that she's a lower class, that she's out of place in this very beautiful home, and the home itself is a mixture of Western and Japanese architecture, which I thought was an incredibly interesting detail of it.
Yeah. I think and so you see this like mix and this clash a lot. Like you see it the second you roll up to the house because you learn that the house is like an English manor with like a Japanese style attached to it.
Mhm.
Is exactly that. You see like the Japanese clothing and a lot of the servants are wearing traditional clothing, but Hideko is always in like the gowns, like the Western gowns.
Again, not super familiar with all this, but I'm pretty sure Suki wears Korean style
That's what
servant to
I
use
thought
form.
too, actually. Yeah.
I don't know if the other girls do. I wasn't paying attention to the other girls, but I noticed
Yeah.
that someone
Yeah.
pointed out also that off. I don't think it's completely consistent throughout the movie, but a lot of times they speak Japanese when they're lying to each other, and they speak Korean when they're telling the truth.
Oh.
Um, Again, it's not 100% throughout the movie, but I do think that Korean is used in the movie to show more vulnerability and more intimacy, especially because most
Hmm.
of the characters are Korean and they're trying not to be, or they're trying not to be
Yeah.
who they say they are.
Yeah. And a perfect example is that, when she does these readings, she basically is reading erotic literature on a stage in front of men that are like watching it. So it's not a performance in a way, but she's definitely doing a more
It
elaborate
is like a
reading.
performed. It's a
It's a
reading,
performative reading.
performative reading. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is very much a performance.
Yeah. So because all of her Japanese training and learning how to read was with erotic material, even when she was a young child, she doesn't like to speak Japanese in her day-to-day life. Like she likes to speak Korean and she doesn't even like to read Japanese if it's not,
Hmm.
like if she doesn't have to. But yeah, it's like she's exhausted by this performance and this performative aspect of like material, and that's why she code switches. Whereas like Suki code switches and speaks Japanese when she's trying to like just be a good servant, and
Hmm.
like they all switch in and out between it. But whenever they're trying to get to a more elevated or say more intellectual, like the Count, he is Korean, but he
Hmm.
is like basically acting like a Japanese
Hmm.
artist. So the Kozuki doesn't know that he's Japanese, but they're all parading as Japanese because that's like that kind of like is more the elite thing to
Yeah,
it.
it's considered the more the lead. And if we take it into the ideas of power, like again, this is the story about manipulation, and it's about these
Yeah.
characters fighting for power against each other and trying to find their own freedom. And so that makes sense that, like, at least towards the men, that they are using the civilized as like trying to be more Japanese in order to gain more power for themselves.
Yeah.
Which then leads us into another layer of this. Do you want to jump
Yeah.
in on it? Are you ready for it?
So diving in like from societal into the interpersonal level, there's definitely a very distinct dynamic between the men in the film and the women in the film. And just to start off, just to kind of start off with the explaining, like the two main women are Suki and Hideko, and they basically are very much under the control or under the having to be subjected to the authority of men. Um, and so the way that they exert power, the way that they exert their leverage in the world is initially through the male lens or in a male way. And then as their story continues and as they continue to like interact, they both kind of find their own way.
Mhm.
So to talk a bit more about this, like, from a very young age, Kazuki basically trains Hideko. She's like only trained to be a reader. Like she really has nothing else that she does except read this, practice reading this literature, practice the performing aspect of it. And it's really gross because she's a very rich heiress. And he's like, when the movie starts, he's probably like 70, and he plans on marrying her at some point in order to inherit her fortune. So, like, she has a very sad life that
Mhm.
she's just been alone with this man who has shown no affection or kindness to her. And at some point, she's going to have to marry him and give him her fortune,
Yeah.
which is very sad. And Suki is in like a different position because she kind of is in like a family unit with like other Karn artists, but they're all women. It's two women. It's basically like a more mother figure, two young women, and then a guy, but the guy has like a stutter. So I think because they basically all have to rely on Count Fujiwara to like,
Yeah. They're all kind of con artists.
they're all card artists, but like none of them can really go out into the world and be doing the trading and stuff like that. Like they basically
Hmm.
just help move the goods, but they can't be the face of the thing because I think
Hmm.
they're women and the man doesn't speak very clearly. So, yeah, Suki's in a position where she really can't like have leverage over Count Fujiwara.
Very true. Both of these women are lacking leverage. They lack a lot of power in their situations. And starting with like Hideko and the performance readings, like honestly, to me, it is sexual abuse. Like it was very
Hmm.
much like this young girl from a very young age is being asked to perform, even if she is not literally performing sexual acts, she is being forced to perform for rich men who are older than her. And she is to the purpose of getting them turned on, and they are imagining her in the position, like that's becomes a figment of imagination in the movie where they're imagining her in the position of the story. And the Count is trying to sell the books, but he is also selling her. Like
Hmm.
he is using her as the idea of the erotic woman. And so it is, for me, it was like sexual abuse. Like it is, and it was very much that she's completely powerless. The Count is extremely violent, is extremely, I think we mentioned before that he kills her aunt, his wife.
I don't think I mentioned that actually, but yeah,
Oh,
spoiler alert.
the spoiler, the aunt was his wife. The aunt was the original reader. She taught Hideko how to read and how to do this. And she tries to run away, and the Count kills her for it. And he threatens Hideko the same way, that he's like, if you try to run away, I'm going to take you to the basement. And he shows her the basement, and she's so scared that she can't run away. So she's in a completely powerless situation. She can't even leave the house. Like literally leave the estate. Like she cannot leave. And similarly, like you're saying, for Suki, like they have like her family full of con artists. They have their own schemes going on, but they're very limited in what they can do. And Count Fujiwara comes in like he owns the place. Like he is going through things, pulling things out. He's kind of telling them what to do. He, throughout the first part of the story, Suki's story, he is telling her what to do. He grabs her, he sexually assaults her. Like it is like it, the power at the beginning of the movie rests entirely with these men. And as the story goes on, the two girls find ways to take the power back.
Yeah. And I think like, when the women are starting the story, they both adopt a very male mindset. So, we know now that basically Suki is trying to get Hideko to marry the Count and then get her committed to asylum. Hideko is doing the same thing to Suki. So both women are conning each other and both women are
Mm-hmm.
working with the Count to like con the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when the story starts and Hideko or Suki and Hideko like start interacting, they both observe this like vulnerability in the other. Like Hideko just
Mm-hmm.
acts very like meek and like has no idea what sexual advances look like and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
Suki just has like incredibly innocent face and like just a very like young, naive, curious face. So both women
Mm-hmm.
see that naivete in the other and they take it for granted and they basically are like predatory towards it. Not predatory, but like they look down on
Or
the other
plan to
for
take
that.
advantage of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
plans to
they're
take
like,
advantage of
okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very like it comes from a male mindset. And I think it's important to note that like the men teach them a lot. Like her uncle is the one who very much was trying to teach Hideko how to like, perform, like be a performative reader and stuff. And the Count definitely teaches Suki like how to act in front of, higher class
Yeah.
people and things like that. Like their behaviors are learned from men. She's violent with servants. And then also with Suki, like they play this game called like Maid, where basically
Mm-hmm.
Hideko will dress up Suki in her gowns and jewels and things like that. And it was originally just to get Suki like really interested in her materials that, Suki will
Goes
want to
along with the
convince her.
plan.
Yeah, it goes
Yeah.
along with the plan and stuff. But so they are undressing each other at one point, and like, Suki undresses Hideko very delicately, and Hideko undresses Suki kind of violently. Like she like shoves her around
Mm.
and she like undoes it and then like reaches. Like she's very like I don't say she's like a man, but she's much more aggressive in her
Mm-hmm.
advances, and it ends with her like they take off each other's clothes and ends with her like looking at Suki like she is the gaze, and I just think it's like all learned behavior from her time performing as a reader. Like she doesn't know how to express these things. And the turning point for Hideko basically comes when they're taking a walk and they bring up their mothers, and you find out that Suki's mother was a very famous thief who got caught once and was hung.
Mm-hmm.
And Heideko's mother died when she was in childbirth. So she says something like, I wish I was never here. I wish I wasn't here. And Suki tells her, like, if your mother were here, she will tell you, I'm glad I had you before I died, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very beautiful moment because she 100% means it. Like, con aside, like Suki meant that to Hideko. And I found that interesting because that's what her, aunt or the mother figure that Suki has told her that her mother said before she was
Mm-hmm.
hung. So it was
Mhm.
like this maternal love and this feminine love was shown to Suki, and then Suki showed it to Hideko. And it was that I think was the first thing that changed Hideko's mind towards Suki. And that's when she's like, wow, like what is this companionship? And that was like the shifting point when they start to reclaim their not their gaze, but like they start to reclaim the way they see each other into a more feminine way and not
Yeah.
just rely on the way the men had like
Yeah.
influenced them.
And I think when we're saying like masculine and feminine ways that they're approaching, we're kind of talking not necessarily like literally, but more in that theoretical level. Like we're talking about like a
Mm-hmm.
male, masculine, and feminine like I don't know how to describe this, but like I'm understanding this more in the feminist
Yeah.
theoretical lens. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I completely agree. Like, that was a very important scene for me personally. And this is like not disagreeing, but the scene that was the turning point for me was the bathtub scene. Um, that was the
Interesting.
moment when I think they started falling in love with each other.
Yeah.
So the bathtub, Suki is giving Hideko a bath, and she's kind of treating her like a baby. Like she's like, this is what my aunt would do. Like she'd give the baby a lollipop, so she gives Hideko a lollipop, and Hideko gets a toothache, and so Suki like files it down for her. But
Tender.
it's an incredibly tender moment. It is very personal. It's very sensual. They're very much up in each other's faces. Um, and it does have that, there is that maternal um, touch to it because she is kind of treating her like a baby. But I do agree that, like, there is this aspect of we're changing it from, again, if you're thinking oppressor, oppressed, colonizer, colonized, we're now taking into a nurturing element, a nurturing theme, loving tenderness, care, gentleness, and that is going to then take us to love and romantic love. But I love the
Yeah.
bathtub scene. I think it's very beautiful. So for me, that's why I saw it as a turning point because it was that moment of being like, that tender and care is now moving towards.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right, and I think it falls into the exact same thing. Like she always says, like, "Oh, I learned this from the woman who basically she
Mhm.
like the mother figure that she had." So it's like the same concept that gets handed down. It's this like tender love, and there's definitely this theme
Mhm.
of like the way sex is with the men is very violent. Like when you get the
Mhm.
erotic material, it's just very like graphic. It's whipping. It's just very like
Choking, yeah.
invasive, choking. Yeah. But with the women, the way that the sexuality blossoms between them, like Suki kind of always describes Hideko as a doll. And she's like, you're a doll that I want to like play with. And like the buttons, like it's very soft and it's very feminine.
Yeah.
And that softness allows them to be vulnerable with each other and create
Yeah.
this like, yeah, like create this like sharedness. And
Like
yeah,
I like talking a little bit about the sex scene. Like, yeah, it starts out with under the pretense that Suki is teaching her what her wedding night will be like, and then they like start actually going at it. And even at the beginning, Suki kind of like repeats what like the count had like these practice lines that he would say. And he's like, "Oh, you're so mesmerizing. You're so beautiful." But Suki actually really means it when she's saying it because she's so
yeah,
taken. And I think the sex scene, it is very explicit, but it is they are presented as equals. They are equally giving each other pleasure. They're equally partaking in this. They're at the end ends it cuts out with them like clasping hands. Like so it's taking from this power of like this moment of like, yes, these women have not had any power or control to them finding freedom and movement and power within themselves through that relationship. And I think that's what that sex scene sets up as being like, okay, we have found love with each other, we have found acceptance, but we are also now starting to reclaim our power here. And then that goes
yeah.
forward.
Yeah. And I think it helps too that both women are like, at least visually, they're like very similar in size and stuff too. So they're almost like
Mhm.
mirrors of each other. And there's a point to that because
Yeah.
they look like they can take each other's identities. But like with the men, it's dominating. You know, it's
Mhm.
very, I said that it's aggressive, but it's not just that. It's a power thing. Like one
Mhm.
person has the power over the other. And I think like either I have the power or you don't. And we see that because at the end, like Hideko poisons the Count, like she has the power and he doesn't.
Mhm.
But it's never like we can
Yeah.
share the power. And the Count kind of tells her, like,
Mhm.
oh, we'll split the inheritance. But then he like, you know,
But
comes on to her and stuff. Like it's never an
yeah,
equal share.
yeah, he says that he's like, I can't just take a kiss from you. I'd have to take all of you. And he gets extremely violent. Like
Exactly.
he almost like rapes her.
Yeah.
And then he finally passes out from the alcohol. And it's like it's the final abuse that she has to endure. And not that she has to, but like she endures before she can finally be free. That she's like, she lets it, she has to just suffer one more time and then she gets the freedom. She gets the money,
Yeah.
she runs. Like,
Yeah. She basically has
but
drugged him and she's like trying to like yeah, she's
she's
basically
trying to
like kind
she's
of
trying to
waiting for
seduce
the
him. Yeah, she's
yeah.
trying to seduce him and he gets very aggressive, like you said.
Yeah.
But
And she's
then,
just like,
but the
yeah.
and that's the thing, like this is like there's always that saying that like everything's about sex, but sex is about power. Like, so the power for when they can't control the women anymore, when the women run away, the count takes the no, sorry, the uncle takes the count prisoner and tortures him and asks him to recount the wedding night and tell all the graphic details. Like it just shifts, like because
But
they're so
it's
obsessed with
but it's
power.
still a power over the woman. Like
Mm,
because they have this conversation in which he's like, you know, had sex with Hideko on your wedding night. Like, what is it like? Tell me. And the Count kind of starts to paint a story. And then he was like, that's my wife you're asking about. Like, it's still
yeah.
this control over the woman. And it's so different from the feminine
But it
relationship. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's control of the woman, but it's not about the woman. It's about
No,
the
it's not
control
about
that.
the woman. It's about the
Mhm.
control. And the women's relationship is so different because it doesn't take anything from the other. Like
Mhm.
it's a mirroring and there's no giving up the power in order to get it. And I think you see this in the scene where they like undress each other. Like
Yeah, I was
they
gonna
dress
say.
Suki up in like a
Mhm.
beautiful outfit and then they undress and stuff. And it's very balanced. Like one will take off the corset and they turn and the other takes off the corset. And it's just like this idea of the flow between them in which it's very balanced and it's equal and nobody has
Mhm.
to give up that power or have the upper hand in order for that to work.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You notice it the first time, like when the Count comes to their house and he is telling them about this plan that he has in order to get, you know, just do his Hideko and stuff. When he's telling them the plan, the camera shifts in a way so that he is blocking Suki, and then you see the rest of the family there listening to him. And
Oh.
I think it's just very like emblematic of this idea that there's always this like idea of people replacing one another and mirroring and like
Mhm.
and you see that more with Hideko and Suki, but it was this idea that like he will always overpower her. And you even see it because she like pickpockets something out of his pocket while he's talking, and then a minute later he goes up to her and takes it back from her. Like he, you know, you think that she pulled one over on him, but he didn't, or she didn't. And a lot of times you see Suki and Hideko mirrored and staggered. And like you see it when they're undressing each other, that they're
Oh.
staggered. You see it on the boat where you see Hideko, and then a second later, like you see Suki's reflection like staggered from her.
Oh.
When Hideko basically has dinner with the Count for like, you know, a really
Mhm.
nice dinner, Suki opens the door and it's the same thing, but she's never blocking Hideko. Like they're always staggered. So
Mm.
she's never, even though these women, like the plan of the Count was like to replace their identity and they look
Yeah.
similar.
And even if like sorry, go on.
Yeah. So yeah, but it was like they never were going to ever block each other out. They were
Yeah.
never going to fully replace each other.
And even if they are going from a relationship of like a mistress servant, like she is the one with the power, through those actions of like dressing up, of becoming friends, of like getting to know each other, the relationship becomes more balanced. And it's like there is like yes, that dynamic is still there, but they because they think the other is so naive, like Suki does actually have more power in the relationship and Hideko has more power in the relationship. Like they are very like balanced in ways that like we don't initially see until we see more of what they actually know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the ending scene really beautiful because the ending scene ends on them having sex and it's framed so harmoniously, like gorgeous golden light, and like they are
And very
completely
balanced,
even,
like a balanced
very
shot.
balanced. It's
Yeah.
very balanced. And that was very intentional, I think. I think that was very much that they are not having that they complete each other and they are not having to steal from each other.
Exactly. And you see that transition in the film because, like, you see, in some of the earlier scenes, like, Hideko is like they're staggered further away in the
Hmm.
sense that one appears bigger than the other, or like Hideko will be looking herself in the mirror and Suki is behind.
Yeah.
And then, so you see them together, but you have this like separation. There are definitely scenes that they're closer, but they're still staggered. But I think of the scene when they're leaving the Count's house because they
That's
basically are
so.
escaping and they have to stop and open like three sets of doors, and they're just like twins. And
Oh,
to
I
me,
didn't
it
think
is like,
about that.
yeah, like from
Yeah.
this point forward, they are aligned. And by this
I love
point, they
that.
already have their plan in place. So yeah, they move
She,
from like a place of like difference because of class and status and
yeah.
everything to like being fully equal as they're entering this next
Oh, I
phase.
love that.
This goes back to like the difference between the count, like the male gaze and the female gaze. Like the male gaze is like, oh, these two women are interchangeable, so we can send Suki to the mental asylum, and then we could just say that she's
Yeah.
Lady Hideko. But to the women, that equivalent was like more romantic, and they realized that they have so much more power together. And I think it was just interesting that the person who ended up being more replaceable, like basically Hideko takes the Count's identity. And so I think it's
Yeah.
like I like that like he is the one who kind of ends up being expendable at the end, and
Hmm.
they because they're looking for two women who are leaving, like the uncle is like, do not let any two women who are traveling together leave, so they're very intelligent and dress up as a man.
I like
Yeah.
that, and I like that, like, again, for Hideko, who has been under the thumb of men her entire life, I like that she's able, like, it is a bit of her. She always had a little bit more of a masculine energy to me, and I like that she's the one who ends
Yeah.
up getting to play the man in order to escape, and like she's able to reclaim that freedom that men have
Hmm.
to in order to use it to escape.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
I'm actually gonna we're gonna start I'm gonna start with that escape and I'm gonna circle back to the books because this is like probably my favorite part of the entire movie. Um, but Suki gives Hideko freedom. She is like Hideko calls her savior. Like she is the one who comes in and rescues Hideko. And we see it twice. We see it when they're running away, like they reach a wall and Suki like kind of gets over the wall and she keeps going and Hideko's stopped.
I think that's
And
the end of the estate.
oh, the estate, yeah.
Yeah.
And Hideko is both like she's kind of like a lady, like she's like nervous about climbing the wall, but at the same time, she is also hesitating about leaving the estate. And Suki won't leave her behind. Like she comes back, she puts the suitcases as a staircase to get over the wall, and it's like literally like she is literally helping her break free. But the really big moment of that was when Hideko shows her the library because she shows her the library and Suki is so angry about the abuse that's happened to Hideko that she destroys this priceless collection. Like she rips them apart, she stabs it, she rips up the paper, she is throwing ink on
Tears
everything,
ink, yeah.
tears ink, they are destroying everything, they dump everything in the water. And Hideko is like frozen with not frozen, but she's frozen with gratitude. Like she is just like teary eyed because she was never able to do that herself. She was completely a prisoner and stuck in this and she is terrified of her uncle in the basement and Suki is not afraid. Suki is like I love you enough to and I that I hate this and I'm going to end this because it has hurt you. And I think it was just a very beautiful and that's why I keep saying this is a love story because it's like I love that like when we are not able to fight our own battles, like our loved ones will fight it for us. And it is very powerful because Suki's doing most of it, but by the end, even Hideko jumps in the water and she's throwing the books in, like, because
But it takes her like a while. It takes her a lot of
it takes her a
observing
while.
Suki before she
Yeah.
like gets
She's
it
got,
because she's taught to like have so much reverence and deference.
there's so much reverence for it. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Like, yeah, first off, like, she's following Suki around just like in amazement at what Suki's doing. And the thing is like, so literacy is an important part. That's another layer that's happening in this movie. Suki cannot read. Hideko is teaching her how to read it. She's specifically only teaching her Korean. But Hideko is a performative reader. Like she is reading these erotic materials. It is the means of abuse to her. And also literacy is a part of that being considered civilized. And it's part of that, oh, like how Western controlled
Mhm.
other countries, how Japan is controlling Korea by showing that they are more well bred, that they are more literate, that they're more educated. Like these are forms of oppression. Not that they're not good things, being literate is important, but like it is. And that's why actually being literate is so important because it's a form of power. Like if you can read, you have a lot of power. So Hideko is she is her entire life is controlled by these books and controlled by these stories. And as you said, like she is taught to have such reverence for like she will be killed if she did anything to these books. If she even like speaks wrong, like she will get hit. And Suki, like she shows Suki these books, and Suki can't read it. She doesn't, and it's such this beautiful moment because we look down on Suki. Normally, people would look down on Suki for not being able to read, but Suki, like she's like kind of, and she sees the pictures. She sees the really, really graphic pictures, and she understands. And she's like, "Screw it. This it does not matter. I don't care that these books are priceless. I don't care that like this is literature. This is powerful. This is hurting you. I love you and this is
Yeah.
hurting you. I am going to destroy this." Like
Yeah.
so.
It puts like the illiteracy on the same playing field as literacy. Like the Count
Hmm.
values books so much. And the reason he wants to marry Heideko is because a French person has a whole estate of books and he's eventually going to pass away and sell it. So he wants to afford it and he can't afford it on his own. He needs Heideko's thing. He values literature so much and Suki can't read. And yet she has this power to dismantle his empire. And to Hideko, like that is the equal power. And it goes back to like this balance between Japanese and Korean in the sense that like the uncle is trying to pose as a Japanese, all of his books are in Japanese, like he hosts these parties for like Japanese elites and stuff. And Suki is Korean. She wasn't taught how to read or anything like that. And it takes this like I guess my point is that like it shows that there's like power and worthiness in both. And
Hmm.
like worthiness, like it takes the class element out of it. It takes the like superiority element out of it
It takes
because
the superiority
Suki,
out of it. Yeah.
yeah, like because I don't think it's because Suki can't read, she destroys the book. She does it for Hideko, but like she doesn't have as much reference or much fear of the books as Hideko has because
Hmm.
they're new to her in a way, like she
Yeah.
has not seen them before. And
And
yeah.
it's because like very specifically like and again I don't think the movie's trying to be like anti-literacy. Like no,
Yeah.
but it is anti-abuse, out anti-control. At least I think so. And it's like those
Yeah.
were the methods of her abuse that like, and that is why they're like, it doesn't matter how priceless the books were, like they're going to be destroyed.
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't see it as abuse. Like I definitely see like the readings as
Yeah.
abuse, but I don't and I definitely thought it was disgusting that as a child she was reading that
Hmm.
material, but I didn't quite see it as abuse in the same way as grooming until you just said that thing that it
Yeah.
was like it took her a while to get out of this mindset. And it's like, yeah, because she's been groomed since such a young age. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't see it as
It,
explicitly as like grooming and
yeah.
definitely sexual abuse.
And even like, so uncle has a snake statue at this front of the library, and it's the snake of knowledge, I think is what they call it. Like, it's like the knowledge, and so you can't, Suki can't pass by it because she doesn't have the knowledge, she doesn't have the
Worthiness.
worthiness of it. Literally, it's worthiness. And so at the end, Suki destroys the statue, and I think that really nails it. Because again, it's not being anti-literate, but it is that superiority. It is that elitism. It is that like
It's the
only
inaccessibility and holding the keys
yeah.
and controlling who and
Yeah.
can't have the power.
To who can control that exactly? And like it's I like that. I've never heard of a snake of knowledge, and maybe that's a thing. But like it's a snake. It's vicious. It's venomous. It can attack you. And here versus on the other side, Heideko's been teaching Suki to read. Like and it's very subtle. Like you'll miss it because they never really draw focus to it. But she's been learning to read and learning to write. And at the end, she writes a letter to her family. Like
Yeah.
it didn't require this hierarchy, this abuse.
It didn't require the abuse. It didn't require the barriers to knowledge that these women were barred from. Like,
Hmm.
it didn't require all these things that Heideko had to go through, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And definitely, yeah, she definitely was groomed. And she was groomed because she's by an adult, she is completely numb to all of this. Like,
Yeah.
she is not affected. And I think that's another beautiful thing about her relationship with Suki is that reawakens that passion and that love and that lust in her that has been completely killed off by her uncle.
I think that's it. Like, to her, sexual relation was always like physical and forceful
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
strong. And with Suki, she's able to experience it in a tender way for the first time, and that's new to her.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
sweet. And it goes back to what we were saying about it being like baby dolls. Like, they undress each other, and it's like this innocent exploratory. But like the
Yeah.
first time they kiss, Suki does like a trick where she just like puts a lollipop to make her lips sweet. And it was like there's like
Yeah.
a beautiful innocence to it. And it's coming from like a sweet place and not like a controlling,
Yeah.
dominating place.
Even like throughout Hideko has a doll that she carries like from a child to an adult. And I don't see it. I forget, but like I think later on, like we see it all throughout Suki's part, and I feel like later on we see it in Hideko's backstory, but like I feel like as the story goes on, we don't see the
Yeah.
doll as
I think
much.
she heals from, yeah, she basically has the
Yeah.
doll when she comes to the house after her,
Yeah.
like, father has died, I'm assuming. And yeah, you don't see it
Mhm.
as much. I think she lets it
Yeah.
go.
She lets it go. Like I think like doll I think definitely means like a lot of childhood innocence that she loses. But also as you're saying like she herself is a doll and like she then gets to be treated not like a doll but tender, like trying to be
Hmm.
cared for. I was also going to say about the aunt that like okay, again, this was my interpretation, but I'm pretty sure this is what they were saying that like so the aunt tries to run away and the uncle captures her, takes her to the basement and kills her. But they imply one of the ways he tortures her is through the octopus because
Whoa, missed that.
okay, so they show that artwork of the woman having sex with the octopus before it's something like I forget the exact thing, but they show it in reference to talking about the basement, and then in the final scenes with the basement, we see that there's an octopus there. And I'm just pointing this out because I was like, again, he was sexually abusing these women and even making them to the point of like bestiality.
Ugh, that is so far. That could be it, yeah.
Very much that was what I was getting. That I was like, okay, yeah. Because
Yeah.
even the I can't remember if it was the director or the person interviewing the director, but they were asked him, they're like, oh, is the octopus in reference to Old Boy? And he's like, no, 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 like that was a different type of octopus. Like when Japanese people or Korean people see this octopus, they're gonna think of the painting,
Yeah.
and they're gonna understand what was said. So I was like, oh, that's super dark.
That's really dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder that. I wonder how she died because she's found hanging and there's no visible thing on her. So I did wonder. I
Yeah,
thought she was just,
she was killed
yeah.
beforehand and then hung.
Yeah, but I just assumed
Uh
she was in the like she was poisoned. And I gotta
oh.
go
No, he
research about that.
definitely research it. But anyway, he tortures her in the basement. The octopus, someone pointed out the octopus makes the ink for the book. So I was like, okay, that could just be it. But that was the way
Whoa.
yeah, I was like, oh, that could be it. But that's the way I understood it. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. I feel like it definitely could have gone there with darkness.
Yeah,
Like,
it definitely could be left up to interpretation.
it could be
But
left
yeah,
up into interpretation, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's what he intended. Because
yeah.
yeah, that is
Again,
intense. Oh my
again,
gosh.
again, this is Park Chan-wook. Like he will go there. Like he will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now
yeah.
I don't want to think about it, but there's things to
I know.
think
I'm
about and I
sorry.
have to
I'm
go.
so sorry. That was a
No,
very
it's
dark thing. But
okay.
I've been thinking about it since last night. I was like, that was what was implied, right?
Oh, I totally missed that. I need to let go. I've watched this. Well, I've been watching
No,
it
right?
like just on repeat several
Mm,
times.
mm,
And I don't have the sound on half the time because it's subtitles. So
mm.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, I need to go
such
rewatch
a
that.
good movie.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie. Um, I also like that the story is structured around three cons that they're pulling on each other, or three schemes. And once I understood that, I think it made watching the movie more like I could understand what's happening. So I was like, the first one is they're pulling a fast one on Hideko. Second part is they're pulling a fast one on Suki, but the third part is they're pulling the fast one on the Count.
Yeah.
And all of these things are, for me, this movie is about manipulation, and it's about um, as we're talking about power and power dynamics, like these characters are manipulating each other. The camera is also manipulating us. Like we don't see everything the first time around. There's a lot that gets cut. There's a lot that gets hidden, and from the first part, and then we as revealed in the second part. There's things that are in the second part that are not revealed into the third part. Like I can't remember exactly, but there is a part of the story. There is a part where they talk about stories, and stories depend on who is telling it. And that is
Mm.
very present here, that they are all having different perspectives and they are having different viewpoints of what's happening and different understandings of what's happening. And they are trying to manipulate each other to get what they want.
Yeah, that's a very, very important part of the thing because like there's always like going like storytelling is like another theme that I really wanted to get into. So there's like an element of there's always a person who's like performing the story, but it's not like they're just performing it for anybody who's around. Like there is also an active participant. So there's a person who is like being voyeuristic. They're peeking through a hole, they're listening through a door. They're like
Mm.
observing in a way that's far more than just like I hear what you're saying. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of watching each other, a lot of
A
watching
lot of
each other.
voyeurism.
A
Yeah.
lot of voyeurism, like even in little ways, a lot of voyeurism. So there's a lot of like performance aspects to it. And like it takes like the deception is in the performance. The deception is in the lies that you are playing out to everybody. And so they all have different lies that they're playing. But an interesting aspect is that through each story, there's two people that are always in on it and someone who's not. So in the first story,
Hmm.
Suki and the Count are in on it. The second half of the story, it's Hideko and the Count. And the third one, it's Suki and Hideko who are always in on it. So it's an active relationship between the performance, the person who's like receiving it, and a person who is on the outside of it. Um,
Mm. Like the
and they even
accomplice.
yeah, and like there's so many instances, like even when it's just the two girls at the inn when the count goes to get the money, he
Mhm.
pays the innkeeper to listen in. And it's interesting that it's the
Oh, I
woman.
forgot
It's
about
almost
that.
always the women who are listening in. Like um like Suki watches Hideko's door, but Hideko has a peephole so she can see Suki through the door too. So
Yeah.
they see each
Hmm.
other that way. Like the maids will sometimes listen at the door, or the only time the men are listening in is when they are watching the reading. Like they are not part of this like secretive
Yeah.
network of it. And I don't quite know what that means, but
I
it's like
think
the
it's
storytelling is like it's a form of getting power, it's a form of leverage. So maybe they're
yes.
getting it because they don't have it.
I and again, this is kind of going into feminist theory, and I wish I'd prepared more on this feminist theory, but uh because of way that things work, I think women have had to learn to deal in these soft powers and these soft
Yeah.
behind the scenes kind of way, learning how to maneuver
Yeah.
and how to manipulate. And again, this is not an overt thing in the movie, but I think again that it's something that colors it, something that's touched that I'm like, yeah, they are. This is part
Exercising
of
soft
them
power.
exercising soft power, and this is how they're regaining control and regaining that by becoming like, for example, using the spying on each other through the door. Like it's regaining control of being the what is the word?
Dominated?
I'm trying not dominating, but it's voyeurism. Like you're the viewer. It's
Mm-hmm.
regaining control through using the becoming the viewer.
Instead of them being the objects of the gaze or the objects of it, they get to have some kind of control. And
Mhm.
I think it definitely plays into like feminist theory of it. And
Yeah.
you also mentioned like the film that we don't get the whole story. And to me, like I do want to end on more discussions around the colonialism, but to me, it was kind of it all ties into how the thing was made. So the first 5 minutes of the film, we see Suki basically just going to this big house, and it's
Hmm.
almost funny because her Kutan, who is like her, sister slash friend who she has a family with, she's like crying and she's like, I should
Hmm.
be the one going to the Jap's house. And you're like, oh, like she wants to take her sister's place. She feels really bad. And then you
Mhm.
find out that the reason she's crying is because Suki gets to get the jewels and the clothes and all this money,
Right.
and she's crying because she wants it. So I'm like, from the first like 20 minutes of the film, you're already taught that there is this like element of deception. So you're saying
Mhm.
that like the layers are pulled back as each goes until you get the whole story. And to me, that just kept tying into a lot of like, you know, a lot of theories. Like I kept thinking of like these ideas of like how stories are told or how narratives are controlled, or like especially within like assimilation, like how that is a very controlled narrative until what you get at the end is very different from what you get at the beginning.
Mm.
And so I like it. And the way that he ties things in is so beautiful because he always has a logical connection. So,
Mhm.
like, for instance, obviously the one you think of most is when Suki is being dragged into the mental institution. She's
Mhm.
crying and screaming, and it's intercut with the little girl, like Heideko's little girl. So we segue into the second story, but it's
Mm.
like it's introduced, like it's
Mhm.
blended. So we get these like intercut shots, and it happens several times. And for instance, like we go into the backstory. Like she puts Heideko to bed, she gives her a spoon of sake to put her to sleep, and then she's like, "Oh, this is what I taught to do for babies." And that's when we go into the backstory of how, where she came from. Like there's
Oh.
always this kind of like thing that takes you to a backstory, or it blends you into the next story, and it's layered. And so I
It's
think it's supposed to
incredibly well
feel,
done.
yeah, and I think it's meant to be psychologically well done. So as the story unfolds, it is truly a journey that you're going through, and it's truly a transformation of the story, which is so different from the
Mhm.
beginning.
And especially with a story as complicated as this, because not only do we have three separate parts of three machinations working, we also have backstories to get it through. So there's a lot of story, and he does it very seamlessly, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Something I was going to point out that I was like, again, what we are told and what we're not told does depend on who is our perspective at the moment. Like my favorite shot that I was thinking, kept thinking about was like Suki tells Hideko that she can't read, and so Hideko goes to write something, and she holds it up, and she's like, "Can you read this? This is your name." In Suki's perspective, in the first part of the story, the shot is okay. It's like they're here, and the pad of paper is blocked by a column. So the audience can't see what's written on the paper. They can't even see the paper, which makes sense because Suki can't read it. So it's nothing. Like she is not reading, she's not understanding anything. But when we reverse it around to Hideko, and didn't even write. She wrote Count Fujiwara because like she's trying to see like can Suki intercept the letters that they're writing to each other. We see what Suki, not Suki, we see what Hideko actually wrote. Same thing with the sex scene. We see the beginning of the sex scene with Suki, but we get the much more graphic version with Hideko because Hideko is so much more used to graphic sex that
Oh,
we
wow.
see
I didn't think
more
about
of
that.
it.
Yeah. Oh, that so
Yeah,
explains
and
it. Yeah, because they do have sex, but
yeah,
it just cuts out kind of at the beginning,
it's very it's the beginning of it. And like
Mhm.
Hideko, not Hideko, Suki does know about sex, but she herself is like not extremely experienced herself. Like it's just like she's grew up around it.
Hmm.
But Hideko knows all about it. So it shows the more graphic thing. There are other examples that I am totally blanking on. But yeah, it is very much like the camera itself
Yeah.
and what they're choosing to show is so in their perspective. Like I'll talk about the bathtub scene. It's another one favorite because like the way that they're gazing at each other is through their lens. Like we're seeing how Suki sees Hideko, Hideko sees Suki. And each time when we see it the second time around, it's different because like it's a different perspective. Like
Yeah.
very, very, very intelligently filmed,
And
as
I
expected from
didn't,
someone who's legendary as this.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's funny because I actually didn't like a lot of the perspective shots. Like I felt like,
Mm,
especially, in any one of them, I was just like, I don't know, I didn't like the perspective shots. I thought they could have been done differently. But now that you're
really?
saying it, they were rooted in their individual perspective. And I didn't quite pick up like the
Yeah.
details, like the small details of the
Yeah.
perspective shots.
I I love the perspective shots because they felt a lot of them, especially between the two girls, felt very sensual.
Yeah.
And I love when we get to feel what the character is feeling.
Yeah. Well, they brought up the point that like when they're having sex, it's always from like it's not like we're getting shots of like just objectively like boobs and stuff
Mm.
like that. It's you're getting it from that perspective. So you're
Oh.
getting it, especially there's a scene where they're like scissoring and you're seeing it
Mhm.
first from like how they're seeing each other. So it's
Oh.
not this like so and they when you I've watched it like so many not you know I've watched the film so many
Yeah.
times. So it is like there is an element of like yeah, you're getting it from their perspective.
We're
Like
getting it from the
you
perspective. It is very graphic and that can feel gratuitous.
mhm
Not graphic, it can feel gratuitous.
mhm
Because it's just full frontal, like absolutely nothing. But at the same time, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. It is from their perspective, and it is
yeah.
honestly, if you take out the shock and the gratuity of it, it is actually shot very beautifully. Like,
Yeah.
because it is these two women who are so completely at equal
Mhm.
in this and actually are experiencing pleasure for their first time, and they make like the bell sound at the end, like mixed
Yeah.
with like the sounds. Like, there's so much like it's beautiful in an unorthodox way. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't put it into a single definition. I'm like, yeah, it's a probably gratuitous, yeah, but like
Yeah.
women also like sex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't feel like it just serves the purpose of yeah, I don't feel like it serves
I
a
don't,
purpose, and at the same time, I can't negate if someone says they feel that way. You
yeah,
know, I
I
think they
can't
have valid points, but
I can't negate it, but I also am like, you're right. It's not filmed in a way that's meant to, what's the word? Turn on the audience. Like
yeah,
it's not that close-ups of the boobs and all that. It is
exactly. Yeah,
it you're and that's why it probably feels uncomfortable is because you're just watching the
yeah,
two characters enjoy it without
yeah,
getting to take part in it.
exactly. Yeah, and it's never more like when she's examining her breast when she's in the tub.
Mm,
It's never more than like you have to see. Like it's you see it the
yeah.
amount of time that Suki notices it. You know,
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
is through their eyes very much.
It's very much through their eyes. I defend it. I again, there's always that question being like, is the sex scene necessary to the movie? And I'm like, I don't know, but I actually kind of like, yeah, actually this one was pretty important to it.
Yeah, I can't imagine it not being important. Any insight on why Hideko and Suki she makes Hideko makes Suki promise not to lie to her, and then when they're having sex, she's like, promise not to betray me. Do you have any insight into that?
I just simply took it as that's meant to like heighten the tension for Suki
Mm,
slash Hideko's the one who's like lying and betraying to her.
yeah,
Um, I
I guess
forgot the point
so.
of that one.
Because you see it from the first perspective. In Suki's story, that's when she first meets Hideko. Hideko's like, you can
Hmm.
steal from me, you could do whatever, but just don't lie to me. And then in Hideko's story, when you see them having more sex,
Uh-huh.
she's like, promise me you won't betray me. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so I thought that was interesting that you
That,
get these two promises. It's always from Hideko asking that of Suki.
yeah.
Maybe she feels really alone in the world and she just wants to know
And
Suki
she,
will have her.
yeah, who won't betray her?
Hmm.
She knows the Count's gonna betray her, I think.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
I think Suki at that moment is like at the beginning is worried just about lying to her and keeping up the lie of it, and then she's later worried about betraying her because I think they're both worried about betraying each other by that point. Like,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last thing I want to talk about was just the expressionist element
Mm,
of it. And so, you know, I think I talked about this in the Sister Midnight film, but when you have expressionist, like it's much more, you know, what you see very much reflects what is happening on the inside of the character, like the inner emotions, the inner thoughts of the character. And I feel like there's, you know, I saw that in Sister Midnight. We see that in Sister Midnight where
mm,
there's an element of questioning what you're seeing and wondering if it's there or,
mm,
you know, it's a bit different because it's, you know, it's
mhm.
colored by that character's narrative. So there are a few things in the film that I was like, I read something that said that this was a very expressionist film. So it made me wonder what
Mm,
was really there. And, you know,
mhm.
the most obvious example is, um, you know, I saw somebody that said she didn't really mount the doll. Like she didn't actually mount it. And I was
Oh,
like, I think she did. Like I
I
think
think
she
she
did
did.
because the art picture was torn out of the book. So they were like, "Oh, the
Oh,
book is worth less because the art
yeah.
picture is torn out." And he was like, "Well, I'll give you the
Let me
visuals if he
show
wants the
you.
doll."
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I have such a definitive view of this movie after this most recent watch, and I never even considered that some things could be left up to interpretation. And some of the things we've been talking about are left up to interpretation. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Doll was one. Also he fantasized. Like he fantasizes about like he puts himself in the porno of
yeah, all the men are
yeah.
fantasizing about her in the porno. The At the end, the count is making up a story about their wedding night, and
Yeah.
we're seeing what's really actually happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess the two that I had the biggest question was when they're running away, we see the rope hanging. And I was like, oh, that's because it's that
Yes.
night. But I was like, but no, because they already went into the next day.
Yeah. I think the rope was just always there. But
But
I
it
thought that was
wasn't. Because they show her hanging from that limb. Like they show that limb
yeah.
multiple times. It's not just there.
No, but she put it there, like, and they just left the rope there, is what I
Oh, from the
assume.
days before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But what I loved about that was because we see that in part one that the rope was there, and we're like, huh, what? And only in part two did we see why the rope was there. Like, Heideko put the rope there to
Oh.
hang herself.
Oh, I didn't notice that in part one.
Yeah, in part one, as they're running away, it's like a quick, they go by the cherry blossom, and it's like really quick, like you just see the rope hanging there.
Oh, I think that's the one yeah, that's the point I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
that's
that's
the
the
one you're
part
talking
that I
about.
didn't. Yeah, exactly. So you don't know why
Yeah,
it's there.
why it's there. And then again,
Yeah.
we're not being told everything. And then part two, we find out what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, I
It's like
questioned a
kind of
lot.
coloring. Yeah.
Yeah. It colors the tension. It colors what's at stake of her running away because he can
Oh,
find her and kill her. And she always says that she'll kill herself before he can kill her. So,
yeah. No, what I was gonna say, I was like, this movie is as if you're coloring in like a circle. Like think
yeah.
I don't think pie chart. I'm sure there's something more elegant here, but it's like you're coloring in something, but you're only getting parts of it at a time. And then when you
Yeah.
actually look at it, you're like, oh, that was the whole picture. This is the full context.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
getting context out of order here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the beautiful layering of the story
Yeah.
and how it gets layered on
And it
top.
and it also creates tension because like you're saying, like, yeah, we see the hanging ropes. So now we're wondering, like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, why is there a hanging rope? Did someone hang in themselves? Like, you're
Yeah.
right. So the idea of like withholding information and
Yeah.
manipulating what the audience is seeing helps to keep up the tension of the story.
Yeah. I questioned it because they both go by the rope without interacting with it. Like they don't even touch it
Mm.
in a way. And so I was like, is the rope there?
I took it as
It's
that
there.
whole
Yeah.
hanging thing happened a few nights before.
Yeah. That makes sense. And then, okay. So the last thing like in the bath, in
Mhm.
Heideko's story, she's like,
Mhm.
oh, the bath is so nice. You should join me. And you see Suki starting to
That's
undress.
right.
And
And then it
so
cuts away.
it cuts away. And I was like, but if they were naked in the tub, we would have gotten a single scene of everything we have gotten. We would have gotten a scene of that. And I was like, I don't think that happened. I think that was in Heideko's mind that she just starts to picture her
Oh,
undressing.
oh, I can believe that.
Yeah. I guess there's an argument for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point because there's no reason why they wouldn't necessarily show that, and then they didn't want to do it. They're
Yeah.
very good, for the record, they were very good about doing the sex scenes. I was reading about the behind the scenes. Um, they were very respectful.
Mm.
Um, they like cleared out everyone except for like a female lighter, like a camera or something, no, something
Yeah.
like lighting, and then they had a
Yeah.
remote controlled camera. They did it in like one or two takes. Like
Oh,
they were
that's
able, they
good.
had like a little separate room that they could go rest in between. They practiced it beforehand. They talked it whole through. So like they were very like as gratuitous as it may seem. They were very respectful around it and very considerate
Yeah.
towards both the actresses.
Yeah.
Um,
It is very gratuitous and it is Kim Tari's first film, like first big
mhm,
film. And it is
mhm,
unbelievable that this is the film that she was in. It's so gratuitous and it's just so big on the international stage. And
mhm.
like, yeah, definitely would
And
have put her on the map.
she does a fantastic job. Like
Mhm.
I love both girls, but I love Kim Tae-ri because she's so cute in this movie. Kim Tae-ri? She is so cute.
I
So
know
anytime
she
I see her now, I'm like, I love her.
I
Like,
know she gets that like innocent face. Like she's supposed to look
in the
just
face.
have a naive face. She's
Yeah,
not naive, but she has a naive
yeah.
face and she gets it really well.
She's very sweet face. And it's so fun because she's a little rowdy, she's a little messy, she's a con artist herself. Like
Hmm.
she's no one's fool.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who Hideko needs to be able to break
Hmm.
her out of this like gilded cage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Random last thoughts. Again, so much to unpack everywhere, but I like the scene of when the Count is rowing them on the boat. And initially it's like she has her head on Suki's shoulder, and then when the Count looks away, she like takes her hand. And initially, I read that as being like, oh, they have to be like surreptitious about their relationship. But then I kind of thought about it later. I was like, no, like this is again empowering for them that they are escaping and they're doing it together. Like, so
Hmm.
yeah, that was my thought.
Actually, that was my last thought too, because when I watched it, when you see it first from Suki's point of
Mm,
view, like you just see like the water and she's like
mm,
just has her hand in the water and then you see like Hideko take her hand and then she continues to put her hand in the water or something. And then
mm,
when you see Hideko's perspective, Hideko is kind of just really feeling this moment with Suki, but Suki is like looking off to the side and is a little bit more distracted. So
mm.
like it was just a difference of perspective, but my absolute favorite is that when the Count is dying, he dies because he's
Oh wait,
smoking these mercury. Oh yeah.
actually, I'm so sorry. Just one more about the boat. I like it because then the Count, like in Heideker's perspective, particularly the Count goes out of focus. Like he is not important.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love it because when the Count is dying, so he smokes. Well, first of all, I love it because he always has like two blue cigarettes and like three white
Mm,
cigarettes in his pack. And like it's this mindset of like you always want to be in control of the situation. So he
mm,
always has this way out. So when they finally are capturing him and taking him to the house, he smokes
mm.
all three cigarettes at once because he wants to only have the blue ones left. So when he's being tortured, at some
Mm.
point he asks for the cigarettes and it's only the mercury cigarettes that are left. So the Count or the uncle just gives it to him and he's smoking the mercury cigarettes. So the uncle dies of mercury poisoning. He dies of mercury poisoning as he's smoking it in the basement. And his last thoughts are he's looking at Hideko in the boat and like he's rowing and he's looking at her and it freezes. And then it camera cuts to him and he does a row and it freezes. And it's like those are his dying thoughts. And I just thought it was so beautiful that
Whoa.
I think he did love Hideko truly at the
Yeah.
end and
In
he
some
did
way,
want
yeah.
her. But
Yeah.
it was one of the most beautiful ways I've seen like person's last thoughts portrayed. Like it was just like a slow fading and then
Oh.
like yeah, just not working and yeah.
Oh. I take back what I said. I think that was much better. Oh, I was also gonna just say that I think this movie's also funny. There's several moments that are just really funny, and one of them was like him smoking 3 cigarettes, and the guys just like really like exasperately like roll down the windows. Like, I there's so many moments where like it's funny, and you're like, am I even supposed to be laughing? But you're like, no, it is actually funny. Like again, this movie has everything to it.
It is. Yeah. It's like when she's leaving Hideko on Hideko's wedding night when Hideko's supposed to be sleeping with the Count. She's like staring longingly at her and he just like shoves her head away.
Yeah.
Like it's genuinely funny at different points.
It's so funny. Like
Yeah.
there's so many cute things that Suki does. Again, she's very adorable, but like
Yeah.
she like stomps around the house and she just like throws the thing like
Mushrooms. Yeah.
and the maid's like, what was that? Like
Yeah. And I love
uh
when they escape the fire because they put these like leather suits on to escape the fire, but they're just like running out like this.
yeah.
It's like genuinely funny.
It's so funny. I also like that he does move it from Victorian England to
Yeah.
colonial Korea. I like
I
that's
like that he
okay.
adapted it. Not that
I
it
like
feels like the same story. I did read like the Wikipedia
yeah.
on the story, so it's definitely a similar story, but I don't know, it just
Hmm.
adds a lot more richness. And I will say we didn't talk a lot about the colonial aspect of it. And like I said, like it is so complicated and so rich. And I don't
Hmm.
feel very equipped to talk about it, but I think that
Yeah.
was a much stronger theme that we really discussed. And I'm definitely going to link a few links because I found some
I would
people
do
who
that. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's some people who really spoke on it way better than I could. I thought they had great
Hmm.
ideas. So I'm going to include a lot of articles in this one.
I love the story. It is so many things at once. It is a psychological thriller. It is a con artist story. It is an erotic story. It's a love story. It's a story about abuse. It's a story about colonialism. Like it is so many things at once. And it comes together beautifully. And for me, at the end of the day, it's always a love story.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can take, they're definitely, yeah, well said. It's a beautiful film.
Okay.
And that's all we have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We drop new videos weekly. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe to us at Real Thesis Pod on Instagram and TikTok, or you can send us a message at realthesispod.com at Gmail. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Sure, but I'll just share this one thing about the Odyssey. I
Mhm.
finally watched the trailer that just wrapped, and I'm like,
I
this
haven't
is,
seen it yet.
oh
Uh-huh.
my gosh. So the things that got me interested is that I heard that I'm totally blanking on the rapper.
Oh, Travis
Um,
Scott.
Travis Scott. Yeah. So I heard
Yeah.
Travis Scott is in it, and I was like, oh fuck yeah. I heard Travis Scott is in
Yeah.
it. I heard Lupita Nyong'o is Helen.
Helen, which is amazing. Uh-huh.
And then I heard Elliot Page is, what's his name? Achilles?
Oh, yeah,
Troy?
yeah, yeah. Achilles, I
Yeah.
think. I
And I was
think.
like,
Yeah.
fuck yes, like I'm all for this. And then I watched the trailer and I was like, this, I
Mhm.
felt like I was watching a fan-made trailer. Like I was just,
No.
yeah, I was just like, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. It truly felt like it was almost a fan-made CGI trailer because I was like, Tom Holland, like I believe like Matt Damon and I believe Charlize Theron in this
Uh-huh.
role, but I do not believe Anne Hathaway. I do not believe
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson. And Tom Holland's acting is so terrible because he just talks like he doesn't Spider-Man. Like he
Oh,
doesn't
that's
like whereas Charlize
so
Theron like
annoying.
crafts like I think
Yeah.
she's trying to make her voice sound a little bit more
Yeah, you have to do something.
like it still sounds like an American accent, but just sounds like a bit more like accented and
Yeah.
elevated so that
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
feel more culturally. But Tom Holland just sounds like he's in Spider-Man.
That is so annoying. That explains
Yeah.
why I really have not seen. Everyone has been talking about the movie, but no one has shown clips of it. And I was like, oh, this is really
Yeah.
perhaps. Um, Very similarly, I'm again either I'm going to love this movie or I'm going to hate this movie, but I it's really funny, and I need to stop reading his stuff that Christopher Nolan's saying, but he was like, I told the composer not to use an orchestra because they didn't have an orchestra in ancient Greece. And I was like, that's where you're drawing the line of historical accuracy?
I
Like,
know. I was like, I'm pretty sure
it's
they didn't have like
like
Cyclops
half
either.
like half the things like the my problem was that the costumes look like shit. Like I was like, the
Yes, that's
costumes look really
everybody's
boring.
problem. Yeah.
The costumes look like shit. I did not believe Tom Holland, and then I saw like a screenshot of him, and I was like, okay, I could kind of see it. But if he sounds like Spider-Man, I'm gonna be real disappointed.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like he looks
yeah,
really good in the role, but he
yeah,
sounds terrible. And Robert Pattinson sounds better, but he looks terrible in the role.
yeah.
And I
It's
just,
the problem
yeah.
of casting famous people. You shouldn't necessarily cast famous people.
No, you're casting famous people. And I'm like, ugh, why? Like, why are they doing this?
Why?
And
Why? I need to. I will touch base after watching this. But I'm like, yeah. So far, I'm not impressed with the visual aspect of this movie.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and again, they're doing like half these characters from Troy, and I'm like, actually, I'm confused because they're not in the story, and it's a very small flashback in the story. So I'm
Thank you. I
like
was like,
Achilles,
really? Yeah.
Achilles isn't in the story. Helen and Menelaus, I don't think are in the story. So I'm like, what's going on?
Thank
But
you.
I was gonna say, Lupita Nyong'o as Helen is top tier for me. I was like,
Oh,
yes,
100%. Yeah. To
I
me,
would.
I've always thought she was like one of the most beautiful women. So the
Oh,
fact they are casting
absolutely.
her, I'm like, hell yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, I genuinely, when people were like, Helen of Troy, and I was like, you're gonna pick someone like, I can't even
Like
think.
Sydney
I would say
Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney, Charlize Theron, like people are beautiful, and they picked Lupita Nyong'o. I was like, yes, that is a face that launched 1,000 ships. I
Oh,
believe that.
100%. Yeah.
I
100%.
I do not question it for a second.
Exactly. Thank you for validating that though, because now that I'm hearing all these characters, I'm like, I think I misremembered the story. Like I didn't know all this stuff was
No.
in it. And then the thought that I have too is like, how did we get Wicked split into two movies, but this just seems like one?
It's gonna be
Like,
one. This
that's
is a very
crazy.
long story. And it's gonna be interesting because again, he likes to fuck with time and it's like a story that
Yeah.
starts in media res, so it's gonna be interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
But they do have a flashback, but I'm pretty sure it's to Agamemnon. It's to Agamemnon and his wife, because his wife kills him. Like it's not a
Yeah.
flashback, it's a story. Like they're telling a story and they're like, yeah, his wife kills him when he gets back home. Like
Oh, yeah.
so
I
I
wonder
don't know
who
why
plays
Helen
Agamemnon.
yeah, I'm like, why are they here in the story? There's already a lot of story to unpack here.
Yeah, there's a lot of story to unpack. And the trailer just showed a lot of like Anne Hathaway, who I don't know why, ever since she got like Botox, I can't see her in period pieces anymore.
Yeah.
And then it was like all Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland. And I'm like, show me Travis Scott. Like, show me Elliot Page. Like,
If Travis Scott, again, Homer's literally not in the story, but like if Travis Scott was Homer, that would be amazing.
right? Like,
Because
so
they
see it.
because their idea is like this is oral poetry and that's basically rap, and I was like that'd be
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
awesome.
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
that's
I
what he said.
just, yeah, yeah.
I
I'm
also
very excited for it.
I I love Matt Damon. I of the whole 90s heartthrobs, he's probably my favorite. He's actually really can act. But again, I see Matt Damon in a beard. I don't see
Yeah.
like Odysseus is like real rugged, and rugged is one
Yeah.
thing. If it was George Clooney, I'd believe that.
Really?
I could believe George Clooney. Absolutely. He did that Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Like I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
he could do like little like roll around in dirt, I've been through shit kind of thing. Matt Damon?
Yeah.
I literally saw screen caps and I was like, he's Matt Damon in a beard. Like,
Yeah. That's very fair. You did also just see The Martian, so I think he's been
yeah, I did
fresh in
just
your
see.
mind.
I do. I love The Martian. The Martian
Really?
fully just healed something in me.
That's so sweet. I love that.